Hey everybody, welcome back to the latest installment of What the Heck Happened in Real Estate. Let's jump straight into our top stories for the past few weeks. Mortgage rates have come back down, despite the Fed's announcement to raise federal lending rates. This is a welcome ease to buyers' budgets who are hoping to break into the housing market to escape the forecasts of record high rent prices rising even more in the coming year. Our second story: luxury homes have just become more affordable. Last month, the U.S. government announced that they're increasing the limit for conforming loans, which are just loans that meet certain guidelines to allow the government to buy them from lenders. Now, these loans pose very little risk to lenders because they can just sell them to Fannie and Freddie, and their interest rates in exchange are lower. Now that the conforming loan limit has increased to over $1 million in some areas, it means that mortgages for higher-priced homes just became more affordable, potentially reigniting demand in those price tiers. Speaking of lowering mortgage rates, rate buydowns are making a comeback. Now that rates are above 6% and home prices are at historic highs, housing affordability is the worst it's been since the mid-1980s. This is motivating buyers to buy down their rate, or basically pay extra cash up front to temporarily lower their mortgage rate for the first year they own the home, then watch it slowly rise in the following years to whatever the market rate was when they bought. The option to permanently buy down your rate with more cash at closing also exists, and some savvy sellers are even offering to do this for buyers as a selling perk. Now, for those who do take the temporary buydown, the hope for most is that they can refinance the mortgage in the coming years at a lower rate before the payment gets too high. Now, hearing that some new home buyers are taking on riskier mortgage products has some concern about the future of the market. In fact, a recent LendingTree consumer survey showed that 41% of Americans think the real estate market will crash, whatever that word means to them, in the next 12 months. Of that 41%, 72% of them think it will be worse than the housing crisis in 2008, and almost half of these people are intentionally avoiding a move because they think they're timing the market well. Now, seeing record high home prices, increasing interest rates, the worst affordability in 40 years, rising inflation, and a decrease in savings and more credit being used is more than enough to justify these people's opinions. Even the top real estate experts and data companies can't agree on what's going to happen next year. Now, here's a graph showing you that prediction range from an overall increase in home prices of 5% all the way to a decrease in 5%. Now, a lot of YouTube economists and podcasters would have you believe it's going to be as bad as 10 to 20%. Now, keep in mind, the numbers I just showed you are referring to the average of the entire nation and not a region by region. That's important to note because the different regions, states, and even cities are all experiencing very different markets depending on their local economy. Now, while there's no doubt the housing market is slowing down compared to the off-the-rails feeding frenzy we saw last spring, there's a good argument to be made for the 59% who don't believe a crash is coming. Now, this involves digging into the data some more. First, the market right now is actually significantly different than the years leading up to 2008, despite the way it feels. Just look at this graph comparing the job market to then and now, quality of loan underwriting practices and the borrowers, lack of new construction we have that's going in contrast to a rising population, the historic low inventory we have or supply and demand, as well as the number of foreclosures and homes in danger of foreclosing. Second, even if those who are more pessimistic are right and we do see a 20% drop in home values, here's a graph showing where that puts us historically. Basically, the only people who run a chance of being underwater are those who bought in the past 2 years or anyone who did a cash-out refinance in that same time period, which wasn't many people. Here's one more graph showing what median home prices have done for the past 60 years, which gives some perspective on how a crash would only bring prices down to where they were a couple years ago. The moral of the story: next year is going to be unpredictable because it's technically uncharted territory, but whether home values go up, down, or stay neutral, the data paints a picture of a less volatile market than we've seen in previous years. So, my Metro Detroit and Ann Arbor family, where does that leave us? Well, according to the showing time data, it's actually quite optimistic. Our market has the lowest amount of new inventory in decades, which has combated the number of buyers who have dropped out of the market. This has kept prices high and stable, and even has some homes still receiving multiple offers. In fact, the latest data shows that homes in our MLS are still getting 100% of their asking price on average. It's nowhere near the seller's market that it was in April, but nothing in history ever was. The conditions we're seeing now are actually a pretty normal seller's market, which makes sense because months of inventory is still down in the 2 range. In fact, in my local market here in Plymouth, that rate is down near 1, which means that homes here are still selling very quickly, all things considered. It is true that some homes are overpriced, seeing price drops, and taking a few weeks or even months to sell, but the overall story is that homes that are marketed well, priced well, and prepared for the market properly are still selling quickly and sometimes with multiple offers. Personally, I've been in 2 multiple offer situations just this past week. So if you're buying now and can afford to, which is important, it's a fantastic time to do it because rents are only expected to rise, and in these next couple months, it's historically the best time to buy because nobody else wants to. You can beat out everybody who wants to wait until spring and run a better shot of negotiating down your home price and even having the seller pay for things like your closing costs or a rate buy down. Sellers, it's a similar story. If you bought in 2021 or earlier, your home is worth the most it's ever been. Even in a less competitive market, you're still walking away with record profits. Given that the market has shifted, though, it's still important that you hire somebody reputable and skilled at selling homes to make sure you're pricing strategically, staging and cleaning correctly, making the right updates to maximize value, and marketing well on the proper channels. It's the difference between tens of thousands of dollars in this market. So, thank you very much. Until next time, enjoy the rest of your 2022, and I will see you all in 2023. Bye.